we have 3 fantastic speakers here. So I'd like to ask them to introduce yourself, just tell about like 1 or 2 minutes, talk about who you are and what you do. Maybe from Michelle.
My name is Michelle Bayo. I'm the founder of Finnovator. I actually just started my company in July, realizing that coming from multiple industries, echoing the last panel, I started my career at a startup, essentially. It was with ClearNet, which got bought over by TELUS. So while I was in high school, really wanted to buy my first car. And my parents turned to me and said, well, great, go get a job and buy it. I ended up working at this location that it was their head office, and they opened 5 franchisees while I was there. And being at that head office, I ended up getting multiple skills. I think to the last panel, they said they started at 10. My parents are both entrepreneurs. I started at 8. And I was working in a warehouse for gift certificates to buy toys for myself. So I kind of got really, really young the ability that if you work hard and you're passionate, you can get far. So started in telecom, moved up after 6 years to loyalty, was there for 8 years, ran online shopping profiles and malls for United, Alaska, Lufthansa, and Delta, and really got into the core of technology in the height of online shopping and affiliate marketing, and then moved over to prepaid, working for the largest prepaid organization that nobody knows of, called Incom, and they are the ones behind the gift card towers that live at Walmart and 7-Eleven globally, and many other retailers that you see, and realizing that they are a technology company, they're a fintech, and every Apple gift card, Google Play, Visa gift card is a ton of technology and risk and fraud and cybersecurity aspects of it, and then moved into the one biggest jump, I think, moving into blockchain after being in corporate for many, many years. Took a leap into blockchain as a chief client officer last year. Really got in depth on aspects. I knew nothing about blockchain. All I knew is that it could enable new ways of data sharing and protecting of identity, and kind of fell in love with all aspects of that and realized my background can lead me to help other companies get to the future of payments faster through fintech and paytech and all of the new things that are coming up. So really excited to have my own company and help companies get there faster.
Okay, I'm going to take you guys back in time way more than Michelle's experience. So I started in IT because I couldn't get into architecture, so I wanted to be an architect, and I did not get accepted in architecture school, so I ended up in IT. And as soon as I started like programming and analysis, like, oh, this is great, and first job, I loved it. So it was I was lucky basically to choose an alternate career to architecture that suited me so well. And I studied in Lebanon, and I moved to Canada and studied not in the financial industry. I studied in a company that does medical systems, so hospital management systems like Scarborough Grace and other hospitals all across Ontario. And then you take some of your skills that you have, and then I landed a job at CIBC. And through my career at CIBC, at one point, I had an opportunity to be an application architect, and we built a system that had centralized access management for all the finance applications that we built. So we were building a lot of finance applications, and we needed centralized identity management for all the users and all the access that we had for these applications. And this is when I started loving identity and access management. And then a few years later, I got this position within the cyber team working on identity and access management projects. So I came in as a project director for identity and access management, privileged access. I started with privileged access specifically, and I've been in that domain for the last 10 years or so. So it's an interesting journey that I had, but most of it is I always did what I thought I loved the most about what I do about my career.
That's interesting. We're talking about diversity and diversity of our backgrounds, right? Not only gender diversity. And that's exactly what we need in cybersecurity field, right? The whole different thoughts, thinking. About myself, I also came from a different background into cybersecurity. I haven't been, I don't have a diploma in cybersecurity, let's put it this way. Now kids who go, they might get one. I was studying for business administration and accounting actually, but I never worked as accountant a day because I figured that I like something else. And I went to IT. I started as a software tester and I educated myself to code and I did release management and so on. And only about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I got introduced into cybersecurity topic by chance. And this is just struck me like, this is interesting. I've never I've never thought about that, right? And I started to investigate more and more, research more, and then I figured that we need actually more cybersecurity. So I led my pen tester team, so we did all research on the job, did the pen testing, and continued doing that. So that was a successful thing. This is how I switched my career into cybersecurity. So now for the past maybe 4 or 5 years, I'm full-time cybersecurity expert. I work for SAP, and I'm responsible right now for security on development side for portfolio financial services, banking and insurance applications. So that's my journey into cyber. It's never-ending learning field, and I really love this about. Another thing that I do is women in cyber group that I run outside of SAP, leading cyber ladies, and many of you already heard about that, and Mary was one of our speakers in the past as well. And why I started this is because when I was starting my career, I had no idea. Nobody actually helped me. I didn't have any role models to follow. So I just kind of made myself way just because I'm curious. But what I see about other women is, and girls, they don't know that this is possible. And this is what we're trying to tell them by showing the role model examples, that this career is interesting and it's for you and it's relevant. And regardless of your background, you can still go into this career.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You heard 3 fantastic stories. What I could hear, there's a lot of keywords there. One is I hear is continuous learning, right? So the journey, they all have their own journey. You probably have your own journey as well. So they started different roles, right? So at the beginning, you're probably in different technology or different domains, but eventually transfer to the cybersecurity or cyber technology. So your journey is very interesting. It's not just a stable, just always like the same yesterday and today. It's keep changing, and you have to learn a lot, especially in the cyber technology field. So my question for you guys, you is, as women, so a lot of there's a misconception about women probably don't like technology. They probably like other things. That's a lot of a misconception there. But your story already demonstrates you can do really, really well in the technology. So what's your view about, generally speaking, about technology? How women can do things good, very good in this field?
Yeah. I think to get women involved, it starts young. It really, the soft skills they spoke of on the last panel, your ability to connect, to network, to build relationships, these are all things that you need in any career, but especially in technology, because if you could simplify what you're doing, technology isn't that complex. It's all about finding the way to have the one-pager or the elevator speech of what you do. So whatever, I think, coming out of high school, coming out of college, find your first job to be something that you like. And every single company at this point has a technology aspect to it. Whether that be telecom, whether you're doing accounting at this point, right? Technology is in every aspect, and I think there's so many user-friendly tools. You could you could be your own CEO, or you could really just go out on your own and be extremely risky. But I think you could create a website in 24 hours with applications like Wix. And I think challenging yourself to go out and try something new, start a community like women in tech or women, any of those aspects that you see a gap, there's a community to come with that. I joined Women in Payments a couple years ago, and it helped accelerate my career. I would say I've been networking since I was a kid. At the end of the day, it's the people you know and the community you build and the genuine relationships that you have with people that no matter where you go within your career, because of LinkedIn, you take your community with you. And I would say build your brand on LinkedIn and utilize it to share the knowledge you're learning through free, like we're in Toronto, we're a very lucky community. You can go to meetups with no cost and learn about blockchain, learn about cybersecurity, and then find which one that interests you the most. And women have this incredible advantage right now where they can tap into all of these different organizations trying to elevate and eliminate the gender gap. And I think now is the time to take risk and learn.
I wanted to add that I just shared with you that I studied as computer science graduate into my career. To me, technology is not hard at all. So I'm biased because I think it's easy. Programming, coding, I grew up with coding. And people who think that coding is not cool for women or it's hard for women, they're completely off the mark. And I wanted to also add that within cybersecurity, in the numbers you were talking about, Brian, earlier, there's more women in cyber today, but I'd like to see more women in cyber doing the core cyber functions versus the, let's call them the business administration functions. So for example, in other panels, I mentioned that there's like project management, QA, as you were saying, there's the traditional IT type or business management type functions within cyber that are filled by women. But I'd like to see that there's more women actually doing actual the core, the threat analysis, the actual SOC operations. I want to see more women into those, and there's nothing that guys can do that women cannot do. So this is what I think we should focus on, to bring more women into the core cyber functions.
Yeah, I completely agree. And digging deeper into those stats, I know sometimes we can see that it's raised up above 11%, but if you dig deeper, technology, women in cyber on the technical side are still low, very low. So I think it's not that women cannot do technology. I mean, I re-educated myself and learned how to code and script, right? It's not a rocket science. Everybody can do that. It's more of a perception of what you like, what you're passionate about, and also that you're not telling yourself, right? No, that you cannot do this. I'll tell you a little story. My daughter, she's 10, and I started to introduce Scratch for her. And I told her, we're going to learn how to code now. And she's like, no, mommy, this is not for me. I'm a girl. I'm like, oh my God, where did you get this from? Like, I'm your mother, and you're telling me this? So, and we actually got into the Scratch, and she enjoyed it so much, and she told me, mommy, I had no idea I like this. And she does it in her free time instead of like watching TV or playing dolls, and she really enjoys it. So I think in technology, it's something that unless perhaps you try it, you maybe don't even realize what you like. So I really encourage, try it out, go visit meetups, so great advices, go visit different industry, different topics, and see where your passion lies. Because with your passion, you'll be able to achieve and move mountains and do really great things.
Wonderful. That's great insight. I love it. So we talk about women, the misconception about technology, women, how women can, we need more women in the cybersecurity technology side. Helen, you also mentioned there are some issues. That's a reality, right? So one part is outsider, so probably the misconception or the old thinking. But on the other side, it's inside yourself, your self-image, right? So that's also we can see from a lot of women professionals. So speaking of those issues, can you elaborate a little bit more? So what kind of common issues you observe in the industry when talk about women in cyber or women in security?
You know, I very specific. I think when I grew, when I was within my career in telecom, and then followed by loyalty, and then moving into prepaid. I was very lucky when I moved into prepaid, or I was very lucky throughout most of my career, because I had female leadership that I was able to look up to and say, okay, at the loyalty company I worked at, my boss was the only female at the boardroom table. So she protected me from a lot of politics, which I truly enjoyed, but I saw that she was able to go into the boardroom and make a difference and have a voice. And when I went to my next career in prepaid, I was very lucky to have a Brazilian GM running Canada, and he had purposely set out in 2015 to have a 50-50 executive team around him. And he hired me as the head of sales and marketing for Incom, and literally I was sitting around a table of a 50-50 team, which is in 2015. I think it's still trying to be accomplished today. And I got to be there for 3 years and witness what we were able to do. Though Incom was in 30 countries, I think Canada had incredible advancements in 3 years because of that diversity. And then when I went to my next role, I actually had been offered a couple jobs from that CEO. And I said, look, I'm not going to be your token female. I will not come over and be the token female executive to run a business unit. Unless you're 50-50, I can't come work for you. And he curated a 50-50 executive team at the blockchain organization and asked me, okay, I got the executive team, now will you come over? And it was a lot of fun. I think when you have that equal balance of discussion and you curate it, it's not easy. It takes determination, but it creates a unique environment to create products that are for the masses, not siloed in one female or one male perspective, but having a diverse gender, diverse, community around you to really try and have what consumers want at this point. And I think they want to have a well thought out path of what you're bringing to the marketplace. And it's hard to find, and hence I'm out on my own right now looking to help other organizations get there faster.
So I'm going to build on what you said. It's having someone to look up and say, I can be like that person. So women need to see more women, successful women in cyber, and that's why we have panels like this and CISO panels where there's women CISOs, and there's a lot of women in technology and women in cyber. It's important to actually see and especially for the younger generation, and say, okay, I can be like that person. But we also need to break that image you were saying earlier. It's not that, oh, it's not cool, and it's only for boys, and it's geeky. By just talking about it more and say, what is it like? What do we do on a day-to-day life, in our day-to-day? It's not too complicated. It's not geeky. And having more role models, I would say, is a key thing for changing the mentality. But it's a cycle. You need to break it. So you need to make sure that there's more women in these roles, so that the other women will say, yeah, there's more women, like we're saying. It's a cycle we need to break.
Yeah, and about the issues that we have, it is a lot culture, right? What we grew up, and Canada is very diverse, and I think we're doing much better here. If you're looking at Europe, and I do work with Europe a lot, and it's completely different. You still feel this pressure as a woman. What is your status? What is that womanly that you have to do, right? And a lot, even when women are developers, like coders, and they've been sometimes offered a job in cybersecurity, and they're like, oh no, this is too geeky, I'm a woman, right? But it's a perception that we need to continuously, like Mary and Michelle said, we need continuously show that this is something that we need to change. And by showing, we need to also focus in our children, our nieces, the young generation, and tell them that this is possible, tell them that this is an opportunity, right? And I think with a couple generations it will improve, but we are at this point that we need to continuously talk about this and show and express it. Yeah.
Exactly. Awareness, I think, just like a security, awareness actually is very, very important. And also, you all mentioned you need a role model, right? So for the women, you have done that will inspire a lot of followers to that. All right, so speaking of the time, I'd like to open to the floor. Do you have any question for our 3 role models here? And okay, yeah, good. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim. So I have a question for any of the 3 of you or the 3 of you. I'm from a business background. I'm not from a cybersecurity background. And I developed a lot of passion for cybersecurity. And apart from that, I lost an opportunity for a job because the role of the job was financial crimes and cybercrime. I'm a financial crime specialist, and I've been in that field for roughly 10 years, right? So I know from the last panel we were, they spoke about you having passion, business acumen and skill, and also having some soft skill. Because you guys did not start your career as a cybersecurity expert. What was your pathway to acquiring some kind of technical skills to support your previous skills so that you were able to transit or transfer or move into the cybersecurity space?
Maybe I can briefly start. There are a lot of online courses that you can take, right, to improve your technical skills. But also, if you're looking for specific cybersecurity technical skills, I would suggest you come to, for example, DEF CON meetups. There are different meetups in Toronto, and if you reach out, we can let you know later on. But they're doing workshops like Missing People CTF, right, Capture the Flag, where they revisit and review those skills, and also they have technical sessions that you can visit and see where you can get. Also, I would say try to volunteer for something, right? There are a lot of projects that are stale because they don't have expertise or they cannot afford a cybersecurity expert. And as volunteering effort for a specific project, like fix a website at the library, right? Do you research yourself how to fix the security flaw there, right? And that volunteering background and experience is something that you're looking for. If you're already in a company, try to also find maybe side paths of educational paths. I know SAP does a lot of great things, so is RBC, I know. When we have fellowship programs, we have educational programs, so you can, within the company, change into the different direction and acquire the skills that you need.
And then for people who want to invest more time into actually getting into cyber, there's a lot of training programs that are launching that are, we call them accelerated training programs. So instead of going to university and getting a bachelor degree after 4 years, there's programs that we're launching. RBC is a partnership with Ryerson University in the what we call the Cyber Secure Catalyst Center. We have these 3 programs launching in 2020, in February 2020, where in 20 weeks you can get a certification, 2 certifications from the program from GIAC. Those are enablers if people want to actually get more technical and get into a job in cybersecurity with with more than a meetup or an online course, then it's becoming more available to us. There is also our partner TFI, the Toronto Finance Institution. They're also launching a program with Seneca College on threat management. That's going to also start in Jan 2020. I'm supportive of those too, but there's more out there that you can research. Some could take 6 months, some could take 8 months, some could take, as I said, 20 weeks. And so it depends on how much you want investing in yourself and getting into a core cybersecurity function.
I would say, cybersecurity touches, as I said, many industries. FinTech is up and coming as well. There's many startups, challenger banks out there, and within those organizations, they're very nimble. They're getting up to 50 staff or 100 staff. They're great companies to get at the ground floor because they have to touch all aspects of digital identity and financial transactions that are happening across borders. And there's a lot of interesting aspects that will get you involved into cybersecurity through kind of a startup perspective as well.
Hi there. My name's Robert. Just a quick question. Are you finding that there's still a lot of organizations or particular industries where there's a glass ceiling that women in the industry need to break through before there's sort of an acknowledgement of their value proposition when it comes to those organizations?
Yeah, it's kind of I think a lot of organizations in Canada specifically are making great efforts. I know that Scotiabank has put out I believe it's $1 billion fund to help female startups. It's coming out of the BDC. The government's doing a good job, but looking at industries that haven't done a good job, I think there's many. I don't know that I want to call them specifically out, but I think they have to realize that if they're missing out on a talent pool, right? If they're not paying attention to everything that's happening today, like women in identity, women in payments, women in cybersecurity, there's a women group for almost every industry. And I think any industry that still has a glass ceiling is just going to miss out on the next talent pool that's going to change all industries surrounding them.
I agree, and I think that we're lucky. I feel lucky that I work at RBC, which is one of the best diversity inclusion companies in Canada. And I think it's mostly I'm not so sure, I don't have statistics, but it's mostly the smaller, medium-sized organizations that haven't actually started paying attention to the problem and saying, I have to do something about it. Most of the larger organizations have had targets, have had councils, and have had a lot of investment in making sure that this problem is, not problem, let's call it, challenge is being addressed at the core, and there's a lot of programs being put in place to do that. I can see that with time, this will cascade to the companies that have less time and money to invest in dealing with this situation, and it becomes more, like we were saying earlier, more like if you see it as a normal thing, then the glass, I think, it'll help across the industry and across the economy.
Let's take a next question.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your journey. So when I think about cyber security, for me it's like a war, like you fight with people that you don't see. And then when you talk about a war, usually men say that, oh, they are going to the war. But because this one is not a military war, this one is a war on the brand. So I think everybody should have equal ability to do it. But still, in industrial, women still, I'm still one or two women in my meetings. When I go to any meeting, I'm just one or two women there, and our voice still not being heard very well. Sometimes I was told, like, you have to talk like men, act like men sometimes. And then I say that maybe it's time for men to change attitude to listen to women. So I just want to ask you, what's your challenge if you're in your role in this industry? What's your challenge to try to break through the ceiling? And how do you advocate to help other women to get into more in your organization?
That's an excellent point. And in fact, I wanted to mention I'm really happy to see men in this room, because we do need men to support us. And it's not only about women supporting other women. That's very important. It's about men actually supporting and being mentors and helping women voice their. So I'm very thankful because I had a great mentors, and they were men. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of role models, women around when I was growing into my career. But I think it's important to have those people. And how we getting challenged, yeah, I also had a lot of challenges in a first, that I'm woman, and maybe I'm also young, so men over 50 may not always like take you seriously, right? But it's about voicing your point, right? And one of the great also, what I actually followed, and I've heard that at our last panel at Leading Cyber Ladies, what they say, ask one question and get for an answer, instead of asking multiple questions and it's easier to get away. And that is so true. I actually followed, and I also figured that out throughout my career. You have to be very specific, right? And if you have a strong opinion, don't be afraid to say that, right? But most of all, it's about also having men, supporting us. And at the meeting, when somebody says like, no, you just take notes, right? We need other men say like, what is your opinion, right? Let's listen to her. Like, what do you think about that? It's not about only me asking my female colleagues that, but I also want my male colleagues asking my female colleagues about their voices.
So, in addition to having men allies and being focused message, I think the third thing I would say, confidence. You have to build the confidence in yourself as you're speaking, because it's important that you actually convey that you're actually very sure about your ideas, and that is my advice is to work on improving your confidence in yourself.
I don't think getting up on stage is something easy for anybody. I think you just kind of get used to it over time by pushing yourself and putting yourself out there, whether that, be an acting class that you take just to get yourself standing in a room that isn't intimidating, that might not be in your industry, that could be really helpful. But I was also very lucky. I had male advocates as well as female mentors and still do. But it's calling it out, like to be able to say, no, I won't take a job unless it's 50-50 was a bold statement, but I knew him well enough, and I knew the industry that his company was in was not where I wanted to be the token female. I'd been there. I've been the only female in a room. I've negotiated in a European boardroom as the only female. Like, it's not easy, but it does take confidence, as you said, and it also takes, like, when someone offers you a panel opportunity, sometimes if there's no other females, you call it out. Or if a conference asks you to speak, you speak to the conference and you're like, okay, well, I don't see you have any female panels, so how about we do one on female in fintech or females in identity, and kind of push the voice to bring the audience to have the ability to hear how other women can get there.
Maybe comment about the confidence. Sorry, Mary. For example, find ways to practice your speaking skills. It's very important. Nobody is born with that. And it's something that we have to continuously do and continuously practicing. And leading Cyber Ladies meetup, so we feature women speakers in that friendly environment to help them grow those skills and be more comfortable when they have to speak at work, when they have to speak at the conferences and so on. So find for yourself something like that you can safely, let's put it this way, practice your skills, be more confident.
Yeah, because women are known to be less confident by nature than men, and there's a lot of books. There's a lot of books you can read on that topic, but it requires practicing.
Hi, my name's Robin. I'm going to talk here just to take your advice and put myself out of my comfort zone and speak in front of people. I'm very new to the industry. I've just been here 3 months, and I'm in a sales role, so I come with basically just soft skills. And I want to say thank you to Helen and leading Cyber Ladies, because I felt very welcome in the community, and I've felt a lot of support and mentorship already. I don't really have a question. I just want to say thank you.
We can actually take one last question before we have a lunch break. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for being here on a Saturday. Really appreciate it. So I know we touch on difficulties and challenges when women is in tech space, but I want to look at the positive side here and see, like, what are the qualities that you have as women that actually benefited you in teamwork with men or just in tech space in general?
I think soft skills is like one of our key advantages as a female. We have an ability to build really strong rapport with people and mean it and build friendships. And I think when you build friendships, you kind of, that's how you make something at work something you love to do, because you build the community surrounding you. And I think we should home in on that fact that women hear sometimes more than men do in a situation or in a meeting. So when you're there, gather the notes, gather your insights, and share a simplified version. I think the one thing that women might do a little bit more difficultly is they want to share everything they heard. And I think learning the skill to summarize what you've heard or what you're trying to tell as a story is something that really helped me over time. That feedback comment that we had on the last panel, I had a 360 assessment done on me in one of my leadership roles, and it was very helpful to hear feedback from my team, from my departments, because it helps you introspect, how do I do better? And I think that one skill of summarizing can really help, whether your voice be through email or actually standing up in a room, because clear and to the point with how many emails we get a day is how you can get yourself to stand out a little bit more amongst your team members.
Yeah, so the skills, when we talk about cybersecurity, definitely soft skill that everybody needs to have, men, females, women, anybody. And I just wanted to bring an example. There is a famous female hacker who's at the top of competition, and DEF CON has no technical skills. What she's famous for is social engineering. So she just using her soft skills to go around and, as part of the red team, she's worked as a red teamer, to go into different companies and figure out the flaws, right? Where are the flaws? And as you know, the human aspect is something that we still need to acquire. So we have the technology, we know how to fix the gaps and so on, but the soft skills is still where we fail. And I think with a different perspective that we bring from different backgrounds, as women, or even from different educational background, different your cultural background and so on. So we build that as a strong position, and we can bring that thinking into the organization where we work. So I would say soft skills, but also your open mind, right? Your experience and how you look at the things, because we often can, change the direction, change the strategy just by bringing our insight.
Thank you very much.